Here's our last segment, ladies and gentlemen, of the night. Joe Biden aims to bolster police departments as homicides increase. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Joe, Mr. 1994 Crime and Control Act, Mr. putting hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into the school to prison pipeline. He's back as president now instead of as a legislator, and he is back at it at funding police departments. He's such a fraud on this issue. It's ridiculous. And Democrats are such cowards and they're so weak, it's ridiculous. President Biden said on Wednesday that states, it's a New York Times article, by the way. President Biden said on Wednesday that states could draw from the $350 billion in federal stimulus money to shore up police departments and vowed to crack down on gun dealers who fail to run background checks as the White House seeks to combat the alarming rise in homicide rates in America. Ladies and gentlemen, that might be due to the pandemic, and there's nothing much the White House can do about it. And there certainly isn't much the police departments can do about it. If people think they can and they're going to be heroic and save the day, they're clueless. And please, can someone tell me what shore up means? Why do they need to shore up police departments? What the hell does it mean? The president tried to appeal to both sides on Wednesday, saying from the White House that this is not a time to turn our backs on law enforcement or our communities. Oh, Joe. By funding more and more cops, Joe, you are hurting communities. By not funding alternative solutions, alternative responses, mental health, drug treatment, crisis intervention like Cahoots, you are hurting communities. But you don't care because you're going for the police vote. Such a whore. By funding more police, you are turning your back on community. Yeah, that's what I said, right? But by funding more police, you're turning your back on communities. There's just no way to do it, Joe. It would be great to think the police are the solution. They're not. If they did, they would have had a solution for gun violence a long, long time ago. The article continues. Under Mr. Biden's new plan, state and local governments will be allowed to use their designated $350 billion of coronavirus relief funds for programs such as hiring police officers to pre-pandemic levels, paying overtime for community policing work, horrific failure, and supporting community-based anti-violence programs. That's decent, but a Band-Aid at best. And we have 3 people. One of them was met with Biden recently. Eddie Bocanegra from Ready Chicago. He was on this show, and I've shown the clip last show or the show before. You can go look it up. He was with Vaughn Bryant and Peter Cummings. Vaughn Bryant was from CP4P, Communities Partners for Peace. And Peter Cummings is spokesman basically for Chicago Cred. They were all on the show. And they all admitted to being a Band-Aid. So, right, we'll get back to it. Paying overtime for community policing work and supporting community-based anti-violence programs or violence groups. City governments struggling with high crime will be able to go even further, hiring more officers than they had before the pandemic. Way to go, Joe. A repeat of 1994. God almighty, it only took you 5 months in office to go back to 1994. This will all be a horrific failure. Now, crime is already starting to tinker, just starting to slowly tick down, and it's going to continue. And what you're going to get from these idiots, the Biden administration, unfortunately, in this instance, is that there's going to be correlation between them setting up this money and setting up this system and getting the money out and crime going down. Now, the reality is crime's going to start going down before they even get the violence out because we're returning to normal. Kids are getting back in schools. People are going back into work in the office. The inner cities are going to be totally filled with people again. Hello, crime is going to go down no matter what from these levels, and they're going to see correlation. And they're going to say, we were a huge success. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And this is funny because it's a slap in the face to New York City, Rochester, New York, San Diego, Denver, Olympia, Washington, Eugene, Oregon. I'm trying to think of other cities. There are more cities that have opened or started a Cahoots-type crisis response. You should have funded that. We don't need more cops. We need more of that response. This is Joe Biden doing the 1994 bill redux. Even though he was trying to get away from it in the campaign, he just reduxed it for the most part. They're just so weak. It's amazing. After George Floyd and the unrest, he encourages the hiring of cops. And this comes out the day before they sentenced Chauvin to 21 or 22 years in prison, the cop who murdered George Floyd. It's a total moral failure. He just can't help himself. He's just such a panderer to the police and the police unions and the pro-police and the electorate that he just can't help himself to pander. It's going to have negative consequences for our cities, ladies and gentlemen, especially our underserved communities of color in Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, across this country. Hiring more cops is not the answer. Everyone knows it but Biden and the police unions. Maybe he's trying to win the police unions over.